Well, let's start this meeting, and I'm going to call it to order. And I would like to ask Cameron, through our video, to lead us in our prayer and our pledge, please.
All right. Everybody join me, please. Heavenly Father, thank you for your strength and your faith that you have given us during these times. Please guide us. Please advise us. Please look out after us. Please be with those folks that have suffered both physically, mentally, financially during this time. We ask that you hurry and send relief our way. Make this pandemic disappear in your mighty hands. We know you can do it. Please grant us the strength and wisdom that you have to make decisions for our school system and be with each and every one of us during this very, very strange and difficult time. In Jesus' name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Cameron.
All right, I'm on a little bit of a delay, so I sound weird, but okay, I'm with you. I'm turning my mic off.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do I have a motion to adopt our agenda today? Second. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. At this time, we will welcome public comments, and the rules are that we have comments sent into our board meeting, and we do have a comment, and I'm going to read this as it was written to us. Now that school is canceled for the rest of the year, what does that mean for the kids? Are they going to have to make 2 months next year? How grades going to work? What's that mean for special needs children? They are not getting speech therapy. What does that mean for my special needs children, one who is a junior in high school and a third grader? We need to know these things, need to be informed of what is going on. Where do we go from here? Thanks, Gina Gomez. I'm going to refer to Dr. Hall on this question or comment.
And she can reach out to that parent.
Okay, and she'll reach out to this parent and contact them, and then that comment will be sent to her.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Mr. Edison. Item number D, our Employee Assistance Program, Ms. Katie Wade. That'd be wonderful.
Okay. That's what I was the first.
Yeah.
I like normal, so this is a little different for me. So, so I want to give you an update on our Employee Assistance Program, and you should have a PowerPoint that I put in your packet. If you remember, in July of 2018, we came before the board and asked for acceptance or approval to establish an Employee Assistance Program for our employees. At that point, we didn't have anything in place, and we knew with the stresses of teaching, of course, and this was all before COVID-19, stresses of teaching, raising a family, elderly parents, financial things, that we felt that our employees needed more than what Marla and I could give because we weren't trained in those kind of things. And so we signed with New Directions Behavior Health. The estimated cost was and continues to be about $17,000 per year. So, in saying that, I have found another option that is free. Say $17,000, which is a lot of money. We have a long-term disability plan with One America, and this is a plan that employees pay out of their pocket. The board doesn't pay anything towards this, but this is an option for employees. If they're injured or ill and can't work for a long period of time, it gives them about 66% of their salary to help them pay for bills. We've had probably about 10 employees since we went with a long-term disability plan take advantage of this, and it really does help short-term and long-term. We've had some employees that have been on the plan for about 3 or 4 years. So it is a good option. Well, with their plan, they've introduced a free employee assistance plan for employers. And it doesn't matter if the employee has a long-term disability plan, it does not matter if they have the health insurance, it's free to them and their dependents, just like the other plans. Except the board doesn't pay anything out of pocket for it. The difference in the plans with New Directions, the employee gets 6 free or dependents, 6 free visits per year, or per issue, I'm sorry. This plan with One America is 3 free visits per issue per year. So actually, in my opinion, is a little bit better for the employee. If you have somebody that's dealing with depression and they need to speak to a licensed counselor, let's say they call in today, so they can visit with a counselor for 6 visits for free, and then it moves to their health insurance plan.
Everything's gone quiet. We can't hear it.
Cameron,
Yes.
I see you. I can't see the board and I don't hear anything.
I don't.
I can't hear you now.
The boardroom is muted.
I turned my mic off. I'm sorry.
But I can't see anything either.
This is Angela. I can't hear anything either.
Okay. I'm going to send him a message on my cell phone that we can't hear.
Thank you, Cameron, because I can't hear nor can I see. I can see you, but I didn't see anyone else.
Well, I'm truly
That's
sorry.
okay. It's all good. It's all good.
I texted Morgan and he is sending Lawrence to work on the audio.
Very good. Thank you, Barb.
Make sure that those were in the principal's hands. They were in their offices. We'll introduce this at new employee orientation. I'll continue to send email blasts, those kinds of things, so that we can see that. The usage with one of the other things to take into consideration with usage with New Directions, we only had 10 individuals since inception go through the entire thing. We only had 1 go through the 6 free visits and actually go onto their health insurance plan. $17,000, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's what I was looking, I'm like, well, New Direction looks better, they get 6 free visits, so when you look at the numbers of the 1 person that.
Actually went all the way through.
Right, yeah,
It's just,
$17,000.
Is it monthly newsletters, do they go to all employees automatically, or is it
If they-
only if they go in the program?
only if they sign up for
Okay,
them,
okay.
but it's something I try to, when I give them, is I try to forward them if I think it's especially something that's pertinent to what our employees are going through. I try to forward those on. I know I send out a lot of emails, but I know they get lost.
They're very informative, I always read them, I do appreciate
So we'll
them.
continue to do that. We will make sure that the employees are aware that when we do start back to school and they have their welcome back meetings, we'll make sure that they're made aware that this is free, a free service to them.
Those of us on the video thing, we didn't hear most of the presentation.
And if we see, and I'm open, if we get a year from now and the employees aren't happy with that, with what, I'm willing to come back to the board and bring another option to you. I just think $17,000 at this stage is a lot of money.
Can y'all hear me?
Make a motion.
What, I'm sorry, hold on. Mr. Aswell, can you hear us?
Most of us on the video thing couldn't hear the presentation. Can you hear me now?
He's talking, he can't hear.
Your presentation.
My mic is on, but y'all can't hear me.
Yeah, he can't hear us.
Can you hear me?
I have a quick question. Is this, because I know you have the numbers of who utilize this program, but is it anonymous?
Yes.
Okay, just to make sure, like, the employees know, there's still such a stigma with depression and, you know,
Yeah, no,
They know
there's no
it's
way,
not,
there's no way for me to know.
you just know the numbers.
Yeah,
Because you don't
that's it. And I don't even know if they're an employee or dependent. I
Working on
just
it.
know numbers.
We're working on it, Cameron. I hate it so low.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Y'all can hear me?
Give us just a minute.
Hello? Can't hear me? It's not a big question.
You quit working again?
Yeah, Cameron can't hear a thing.
I can hear you. You can't hear me.
Cameron says I can hear you, you can't hear me.
Cameron, did you hear Miss Kaylee?
Not all of it.
Not all of it.
Mute the.
This is Angela. I'm with Cameron. I can hear Cameron, but during Kaylee's presentation, the whole boardroom went muted.
Employees still get.
Does anybody
Yes.
Yeah,
touch the phone? It just, what's the? Oh, sorry. 252.
3, yes.
843-1181.
We'll get there.
Welcome to Google Meet. Enter the meeting pin followed by the pound key.
851-394-331 pound.
Thank you. You're muted because a lot of people are on this call. Press star 6 on mute. This call is being recorded and streamed.
What did he say?
So moved.
Who made the motion?
Can you hear me now? I don't hear you.
Can you hear us now?
I hear you now. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you great.
Okay. If I lose y'all again,
Yeah.
I can just write my note and say I voted for it or whatever. All right. We'll make it work.
We have a motion by Cameron to approve. Do I hear a second? Second. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you, Caleb.
Mr. Morgan Bennett, hotspots.
Yes, good morning. So I'm sorry that we're having so many technical difficulties this morning, but hopefully we can work through it. I will say that I know that we're in unprecedented times, and during this time we have been doing what we can to support online learning with our current resources. So to that end, a couple different things I wanted to share with you. First, as we reported to you previously, we do have 2,000 Chromebooks that were donated by an anonymous donor through the Florida Department of Education and NEFAC, and those are due to arrive today. So we do have NEFAC scheduled to come and help us start the etching and enrollment process for those. And after that, the next thing that I wanted to share with you is that we have already purchased and have in the hands of students 50 additional Khajiit hotspots. And I want to take a second to show you what these look like. They are little hotspots that look like this. They have a little screen. They have a power on and off button and a place for a charger, which also comes with it. These work on the Verizon wireless network, which is one of the stronger networks and has wider coverage through most of our district. And so we have 50 of those. They are deployed, and they are something that we can manage on our end. We can monitor student use. And so, for example, I'm going to share my screen for just a moment and show you an example of what this looks like. This is an example of the Sentinel dashboard that we have that helps us monitor student uses. So each of these is a different hotspot that's in use. You can see the usage here. We have 49 active devices. That one suspended device is the one that I showed you just a moment ago. We are using it right now just for an example. And the next step in all of this is that we did have an opportunity through the Florida Education Foundation to apply for some additional grants for technology that supports online learning. So what we did is each of our 4 high schools did apply for the grant for an additional 46 Khajiits. We at the district level also applied for a grant for reimbursement for the 50 Khajiits that we already received. In addition to that, we were happy to work in conjunction with Levy County Education Foundation and provide them with some quotes and support that they needed to apply for the grant as well as an eligible entity. And they'll be using that for, their application was for larger bus-mounted hotspots that we can use a little bit more flexibly. If we get the grant, it will just give us some more options in terms of things that could be strategies that could be used to help students that have a limited internet capacity. One other thing that I wanted to share with you is that we actually got a memorandum this morning from the FCC. And this memorandum from the FCC outlines what we had begun hearing last week, which is the federal government through the CARES Act has appropriated up to $16 billion nationwide for additional support for online learning. Now, we don't know exactly what this will look like at the state level yet, because it will filter down through the state before it comes to us, but it will be a significant chunk of money that we're hoping could help support students in this new contingency plan for online learning. One other thing that was mentioned in the memorandum is that in addition to this immediate or close to immediate funding, the federal government is working, and there are some proposals floating around Washington for a more long-term solution for connectivity for students, in particular in rural areas. And one of the proposals that's out there is looking at maybe beefing up some of the monies that we receive through the existing federal E-rate program to help support additional connectivity for students in rural areas. We don't know where that will go yet, but I'm hopeful that if something positive comes out of this COVID-19 emergency, it's
It keeps disconnecting phone calls. Through Google. Morgan froze. Is this us just overloading the network?
No, sir, I don't know what the problem is. I mean, we participate in Google Meets all the time.
Right.
And so I don't know what it is. I can tell you, whenever you do something and you have a bunch of people online, the feedback of the microphones, unless you have, especially through Zoom, you can't hear. Right. You can't do anything. So you've got used, like on the calls in and stuff. So is Morgan the kind of traffic cop, or you're, okay. He's to that laptop right there. Gotcha.
Can you hear us? Can you hear us now?
I can hear you. I lost Morgan, but I can hear y'all.
Okay.
For whatever reason, Morgan froze. We've never had that issue here before. Hanging up automatic channels.
Okay, so Morgan, can you hear us?
He's in his office.
We can't hear him at all.
Hey, I found the chart interesting at the times people are using the thing. I thought that was cool.
Yes. Mr. Edison, do you know, do we have sufficient number of Chromebooks now for the students?
Yes, ma'am, we'll have, once we get this, well, I know we'll be able to do one-to-one, either second or third, or at least up to fourth grade, all the way through.
How did you choose the 50 that got the hotspot?
Those are the seniors.
Because, I mean, it's a big issue.
Yeah, those are the seniors.
The connectivity.
We had to make sure that our seniors were able to get across the line.
Yeah.
And so then they're trying to get some more in, and I can tell you, when you read emails and stuff like that, one of the concerns we have is how many kids will we lose to distance learning permanent? And so it's going to be a new way of work with us from now on. Sorry, as you know, that we've been, I don't want to say aggressive, but we're trying to make sure that we have a distance learning program of our own. And that's why we have the 4 teachers and Nixar and everything else with the ingenuity. And so it's going to just grow. Some people's going to like it, some people's not. But everybody has a experience with it now.
Yeah, this was a little bit concerning that I can't, what was the figure that he said was going to go to online learning? I hope we can get some of that money to connectivity.
Yeah.
Because it's such a big issue right now.
Connectivity is the biggest issue in Levy County,
Yeah.
and always has been. And
Yeah.
I know Charlie Stubbs, that was one of the things he was working on. I don't know where that's at, but that's not just a student issue, it's an economic issue in Levy County, because the connectivity keeps businesses out of Levy County.
At this time, let's take a 5-minute break and see if he can,
Sure.
we're going to break for 5 minutes until we can get this back corrected. Mr. Ben, if you want to go ahead and present again.
Yes, ma'am. I wanted to give you all an update on some of the things that we're doing to try to support our online learning plan for the district and district students and families. As several people have mentioned, these are unprecedented times. There are some things that we have been doing to support that. One piece of good news, which I believe we reported previously, is that we do have 2,000 additional Chromebooks heading our way. They are due to be delivered today, actually between 10 and 2, so they could be on site as we speak. We do have NEPEC support coming in tomorrow to help us begin the enrollment and etching process for those 2,000. So that project is well on its way. We also, quite a while back, I previously reported to you, we purchased 50 wireless hotspots. And this is actually the one that's not deployed right now. We had come back recently for some repairs. This is what they look like. They work on the Verizon network, and they're called Khajiits. They're pretty simple. They have one button, a screen, and a plug for the charger, and that's it. And so we have 50 of these out there. There is a dashboard that I was going to share with you that allows us to monitor their usage. It allows us to see, whether students are using it appropriately or inappropriately. And we do share that information with schools. We've sent some stuff out a couple times already. But the good news is they are being used. So I do think our households are finding them helpful. Kind of to that end, something that happened last week was that we received news that there was a fairly significant matching grant opportunity through the Florida Education Foundation, which basically for up to $5,000 in matching funds, so you provide 5, they provide an additional 5, can be used and applied for additional technology to support online learning. So what we did with that is we had each of our 4 high schools apply for that grant, because you can apply with it at the high school and at the district level. And each of the high schools applied for an additional 46 Khajiits. We are still waiting to hear whether we receive funding, but we're hopeful. Something else that was a pleasure to do as part of that is the Education Foundation actually qualifies as an entity that can apply. So we worked with the Education Foundation, provided them some information and quotes for slightly different setup than this. For them, we went the route of some larger bus-mounted wireless hotspots. so that if the foundation receives their matching grant, what we'll be able to do is mount those on buses and then deploy those buses out to wherever we need them to be, to support some of our students in more isolated areas. So again, we're waiting to see where that goes. I'm hopeful that we can get some of those grants and provide some additional support. It's actually ironic because we did have a memorandum that came out this morning. We had been hearing last week through our IT group, Intact, that there may be some funds out there through the Federal CARES Act that's already been passed for supporting schools in online learning. And basically what this memorandum from the FCC outlines is that within that nationwide, they did allocate $16 billion for additional funding for support for online learning. So we don't know yet exactly how that is going to funnel down to us. It will go through the state level before it comes to us, but there is a promise there of some additional support in the fairly immediate future. The other thing that this memorandum outlined is that there's actually also some moves right now in Washington to look at a more permanent solution to some of the rural internet connectivity issues. And what they're looking at doing, at least one proposal, is potentially to expand the existing E-rate program to include some additional funding to support rural internet connectivity. We don't know what that's going to look like yet, but of course, we're very much in support of that. My view is that, you know, if there's one positive thing that comes out of this COVID-19 emergency, it's maybe that finally some light is being shed on the fact that there is a little bit of disparity in terms of internet connectivity, and that hopefully we can get some support for our families for that. So that's all I had to present. Most of the questions.
On the matching grants, was that 46 total for the county, or was that 46 each school?
Each school applied for 46, and depending on what happens in terms of who is awarded the matching grants, we'll try to come up with the funds to see what we can do to purchase as many units as we can.
Gotcha. And then the Chromebooks you said came from DOE?
An anonymous donor, we don't know who the donor was, provided funds through the Florida Department of Education, who then facilitated that purchase through NEFAC. So we actually worked with NEFAC, and here a while back provided some statistics on what we as a district could use in order to support our one-to-one initiative more effectively. And so we provided those numbers, and we were very pleased to come back that we got 2,000. There were several districts that may have more enrollment that didn't get quite as many as we did as a district, so we're pleased with how that ended up for us.
I think the figure was 31,000 for rurals.
Yeah, 32,000.
So,
yeah.
Awesome. And Mr. Superintendent, I don't know if it was said, can you tell us where that will take us, to what grade level? So
I think we'll be 1-1 through third grade, am I correct, Maureen?
That is our hope. We have to first see what comes back at the end of this school year and see what kind of shape that's in. But based on the numbers, preliminary numbers that we're looking at, our hope is to, at the very least, try to get down to that level. We will have additional machines, but we have a large inventory of existing Chromebooks. We call them the EduCare, some of the first Chromebooks that we purchased, that are within about a year of ending their service life. So we've got to be careful how we deploy those, because they won't be lasting much longer.
what is the shelf life on them?
5 years.
5 years.
That's the standard for Chromebooks.
Gotcha.
In the state budget, there's $100,000 for digital technology budget.
That is correct, and that is a decline. So the one concern that we as a department have with all this is we're very fortunate to be receiving money now, but we are a little concerned about the sustainability of these devices that we're deploying. So, but my viewpoint is, if we got them, we need to use them. And worst case scenario, if we can't fund them later, we can't fund them later, and we get 5 years down the road. But hopefully, funding will be available. But the one concern that we as
Mr. Aswell, did you have any comments?
No, ma'am, I was just listening.
Okay.
So I know that it was the digital technology, that was one of the things that was identified to reappropriate that towards teacher raises. And it came until the last probably 2 days of session where I think they put $6 or $8 million back into the budget, where last year it was 20 million, 2 years ago it was 40 million. So I mean, it's definitely been almost a $400,000 to $500,000 loss of revenue.
That is correct. We were very grateful to see that it ended up in the final budget, and, you know, every little bit helps. It is much less than it was in a point in time when we first went one-to-one for our high school students. And so again, it's a sustainability issue is what we're dealing with. And it's not something that will hit us today or even next year, but several years down the line, if the funding's still not there, we're going to have some hard decisions to make about what we can and can't support. But
I know the small school districts, the rurals were really instrumental, especially Chris Doolin, in kind of helping get that pushed back in, so.
And where we have the difficulties, we're at the top end of the bottom, shall I say. In other words, we earn just enough to be, if the allocation is $500,000 is the bottom, we were earning $583,000.
Correct.
You know, because we got 5,400, 5,500 kids. But if you have 1,000 kids, you're still making $500,000.
Right.
And so that's how come some of the smaller districts are able to do one-on-one, and we were basically able to do 8th grade or 6th grade depending on the school one-on-one.
that's correct, Mr. Superintendent. We're basically, the way I view it is we're kind of stuck in the middle.
Thank you, Morgan.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to item F, Dr. Hall. Hello, Dr. Hall, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm gonna try to share my screen. So be patient with me, give me a few minutes.
Okay.
Are you able to see the screen on your end?
Yes.
Okay. Is Morgan still in the boardroom?
He just stepped out.
If someone's there, I want to be able to show it full screen. Is it showing? Is it demonstrating very well? Or can you see the screen well?
We can see it.
Yes, and we have it printed out, Rosalind.
Very good. So we'll just go from there. So again, good morning, Superintendent Mr. Edison, our board chairman, Ms. Brookins, board members, and our board attorney, Mr. Delaney. First and foremost, the hearts that you see in front of the where you're sitting represents the love and compassion that we have for our students and families. And so thank you for the opportunity to share with you our ESC Student Services distance learning during COVID-19. First and foremost, for our department, the 5 priorities for special education is 1, that we're focusing on the safety, health, and welfare of our students and staff in our community. Our second priority is to communicate with our parents and families on a regular basis. Communication is essential. 3, provide free and appropriate education and services to the extent possible, because we know during this pandemic that we cannot duplicate the services and support that a student would receive in a brick and mortar school, but to the extent possible. And 4, it's very important that we document all of our efforts. In my world, if it's not documented, it didn't happen. So it's very important that we do so, that it's very focused, consistent, and details, and it really demonstrates our good faith efforts. And 5, but not least, is the compliance part. It's important for us to remember that when IDA was created, that there was no indication at that time, of course, that there would be a national crisis that we're seeing today. So we're making decisions based on parent input and the skill sets of our teachers. So those are our 5 priorities for special education. The second slide, okay, let's see. It's going slow here. Technology is great when it works. I'm not able to project this second PowerPoint, but I'll continue since you have a copy. Okay, so some of the most common questions that we're hearing across the nation, and I just highlighted 3 of those most common questions that we're receiving here in Lee County. Is 1, are IEP teams required to meet during school closure? And of course, we're not required to do so. And there's an Office of Civil Rights, which you have in your folder, that speaks to this. Because we're under certain mandates and social distancing, of course, we cannot require that. So a lot of the work, if all of it, is virtual. And we proceed with evaluations during a time of school closure. So our evaluations and reevaluations do not require face-to-face with students. We can continue to hold those staffings, and we are. And of course, working with families have the opportunity to do delayed evaluations until we open schools as we know it. Most families want to continue that process to the extent possible. And lastly, one of the questions that we hear often is, can we conduct IEP meetings through virtual platforms? And of course, we're doing that, whether it be a conference call, whether it be Facebook, whether it be Zoom, as we're using today. We have creative ways and lots of options to continue to engage with our families. So now I want to bring your attention to and refer to the ESC Student Services Continuity Plan, which you have a hard copy of in your folder. So if you would refer to pages 12, and it'd be 12 through 21, it's the ESC Student Services section of our district-wide instructional continuity plan. So pages 12 through 21 provides an overview of our continuity plan, and it includes the instructional delivery models for our students with disabilities and related services as indicated on the student's IEP. Those related services include speech and language services, physical therapy, occupational therapy, counseling services that are provided to our students, of course, mental health services, and this includes students with 504 plans, our hospital homebound students. It also includes gifted. If you recall, gifted falls under ESC in the state of Florida. Throughout those pages, you'll see the role, whether it be the ESC teacher, pre-K, our school psychologist, hospital homebound related services personnel. We have 2 contracted behavior specialists, school counselors, our regional local assistive technology specialist that you presented some time ago and shared with you all her services. We have 1 social worker, we're still short 1. So our social worker, and then you also have activity services that our Dean of Students can provide our students. In the last column of our continuity plan, you see curriculum and a plethora of supplemental resources to support our students. I'm going to stop there. Are there any questions regarding our continuity plan, serving our students with disabilities, our gifted as well?
Dr. Hall.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
This all looks great on paper, and I appreciate the hard work and all that. How are we making sure that a child in a regular class environment, however you term that, is being sent home work that complies with his or her IEP or 504 plan? For example, right now, a child in secondary education gets 1 to 3 assignments per week. Say a child has not supposed to have to do as many assignments as his classmates because of his IEP or 504. How are we guaranteeing that our staffs are following those procedures? How do we know that's happening?
Well, 2 ways we know that's happening. 1, our school administrators are monitoring the amount of work and requiring their teachers to document in their lesson plan book or some other place, and maybe in their law, where accommodations are being provided to the students. The other way that we know that this is happening, or at least we're monitoring it, which is a great question, is the next slide, which is the services law that I created for teachers who are providing services to students with disabilities. And you see a sample of that log from my department that gives the student's name, grade, the date, the time, services provided, and of course that communication piece. So it's twofold, Mr. Asbell. We have school administrators monitoring to ensure that services are being delivered. And secondly, it's documented in on their services log that is sent to my office, usually on Friday, Monday mornings. And the schools have a log as well. Many of them have combined their log, which brings me to the next slide. This is a sample of Chiefland Elementary School. And several of our schools are using this particular weekly planning document. And you can see where this particular teacher in great detail talk about accommodations, speak to the collaboration with staff. So that's how we're monitoring to ensure this is happening. And as we have communication with families, if families are concerned and continue to have concerns about if plans are being implemented with fidelity, are we taking in consideration the deficits, are the accommodations that should be provided to our students, that they need to have conversation with first the teacher, then of course if there's no improvement, and hopefully there is, then we talk to administration. Of course, they can always reach out to my office to have further conversation about any concerns they may have. But this is what we have in place to ensure that things are happening.
Thank you. You answered my second question before I could ask it. I wanted to know if a parent was having a struggle, how could they contact? Who should they talk to? And you answered that well. And I'm gonna leave you with an impossible question because there's no way to know this. But knowing you, I know you are planning for it. When we come back, and we are going to come back, and school will be what school once was.
Right.
I'm sure there are going to be setbacks to children that, for example, need speech therapy, those kind of things.
Right.
Do you know if there's going to be funding to make that more available? Do you know if there are going to be opportunities to, for lack of a better term, catch those kids back up?
Yes, there's money. I'm very connected at the national office, and we just received an email regarding fundings that's coming down as a result of COVID-19 for all students. That money is going to be sent, of course, to the state, and it's going to funnel down to the local level. So there will be funds, because one of the things that we're required to do, Mr. Asbell, is that when we do open schools, we'll be having meetings. As I said before, there's ongoing communication with families as we speak. But when we return to school, we'll be having IEP meetings, 504 plan meetings, looking at the data. Schools are aware that they need to monitor the goals and objectives and how well our students are doing. We are expecting some regression for all of our kids to a certain extent, because again, we cannot mirror the services and the time if a child was sitting in a classroom. So we'll be having conversations, we'll be looking at data, and through that process, and it's going to be very individualized as we're required to do so, student by student, we would determine if we need to provide compensatory education, additional support before, after school, additional support during the day. So there'll be money allocated for that purpose. And of course, through IDA grant that I'll be writing in a few weeks here, there's going to be money set aside, if you will, not really knowing, but having a cushion, if you will, because we know we're going to have to play some catch up, if you will. You're familiar with our curriculum maps, and I know that our reading coaches are working diligently in our schools, revisiting our curriculum maps, because the results of the data of our students is going to drive the process moving forward to bridge that gap and to close those deficits.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hall. That's all I have. Thank you for that presentation. Great job.
I'm not done yet, but you keep on asking.
I'm done. Well, I'm letting you know.
Fast forwarding. Okay. So that's the planning log and example for Chiefland L. Are there any other questions regarding the continuity plan at this point, or how we're documenting and communicating with families?
Okay, no, we'll wait and ask again in a minute. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to move forward. This next slide, again, is an example of the various ways that we use technology. And also, we know that not every student can work on a computer or even have internet or devices to do so. At the request of many of our parents, we're sending home educational packets on a 2-week rotation to our students. Schools are communicating through email, virtual, text messaging, phone calls, and of course, our system of Remind, of a way of communicating with families. So we have a variety of ways of doing that. This next slide is communication through distance learning. And this is some samples of Bronson Elementary School and how they're communicating with their families. Then getting really to the meat of what we do and the feedback that we've received. This first slide is a teacher from Bronson Middle High School and her success story. And just want to highlight that she indicated that, and I'll quote, "I see that even the students who don't say that they enjoy school miss me, our parents and their classmates. We do have a sense of community that is difficult to forge outside of the classroom. And the students seem genuinely concerned for their classmates and they ask about one another. This other part is very critical." She indicated, Ms. Hood, "I have ridden the bus." She's riding the bus to disseminate meals to our families. And she learned how much our bus drivers, and she didn't know this before, how much they know our students and families. They really are a vital part of the educational community that I have neglected to notice before all of this. So great things are coming to the forefront, things that we're doing that others had not even recognized. And yes, our bus drivers do know our kiddos. They see them first thing in the morning, and of course, at the end of the day. Some more success stories. This is from Cedar Key. Not only do I enjoy my paraprofessional position at Cedar Key, but she enjoys working with the students. She talks about encouraging and working in an environment where the principal, the faculty, and staff is very supportive, and that the parents do reach out to her and they discuss and understand, and she works very well with this family as well as the student. Continuing on, success story from Kimberly Walker at Chiefland Elementary School. She says that she receives lots of feedback from families and saying how much they appreciate what she's doing and collaborating with her colleagues. You know, you can't do this work in isolation, and it's very important that you reach out to others because we all don't have all the skill sets, but collectively we have what we need to support students. So Ms. Walker at Chiefland Elementary talks about her collaboration with one of our SLPs, Cindy Hamilton. The next slide, she continues to speak to, regarding this particular, indicating that she's very fluent in Spanish, because we know with students with disabilities, they too can have an IEP, regardless of their ethnicity, their speech, language, and country that they may come from. But she speaks to the importance of providing those accommodations, how she runs and have daily checklists with her students, that she scaffolds the curriculum and the instruction. So it's where we want the kids to be, but we know if there's a gap, that we have to take baby steps to get to the outcome that we're looking for. And she's receiving lots of great feedback from her families. Jennifer Martin is one of our fine teachers at Joyce Bullock, and she speaks to her remediation class. She has approximately 20 students. She shares that 12 of those 20 students do not have technology or internet access, so she makes phone calls and she assists them by making accommodations, ensuring that accommodations are being available to them. And then she's also shared how those accommodations can be provided by the parent and walk them through that process as well. Jennifer is also our gifted teacher at Joyce Bullock, and here she uses Zoom to interact with her students. And she says sometimes she knows that the parents and the students are overwhelmed through this whole process. She's very mindful of that, and she continues to have communication with her families, and that's really important. You're going to hear me say that frequently because we know that parents have to remain in the loop, and that we also take their recommendations and what they need for their students in consideration. Serena Berry, and I'm going to show this one, is a gifted teacher at Wilson Elementary School. And I'm going to show you a snippet of her video.
There's a movement happening right now in classrooms all over the country that encourages students to explore their own passions and creativity. Students of all grade levels will be engaged like never before. I present to you Genius Hour. This is where student passions come to life. Genius Hour has many roots, but is based on a business practice that Google uses with their development team. They allow their developers to spend 20% of their time at work on projects that interest them, provided that it has the potential to advance the company. The idea is simple. Allow employees to focus on their own passion projects and productivity will go up. There are many commercial projects that have been developed by these 20% projects, including Gmail, Google Talk, and Google News. Fortunately for students, educators have grasped onto the idea and coined the term Genius Hour. This is where teachers allow students to work on whatever project they want during their own learning time. We've all had students in our class that aren't motivated by the traditional school environment. The beauty of Genius Hour is that it provides a path to intrinsic motivation. When students have a say in their learning, they become much more engaged, their confidence is boosted, and the entire learning process becomes, you guessed it, fun.
Okay, I'll stop there. One of the things that Serena had shared is that the students maintain a journal, and they write in their journal weekly to record their progress of their projects. And if the journal, the teacher responds to the students and asks questions of them. So it gives them an opportunity to be very creative and to really capitalize in the area of giftedness that they hold. This next, another blurb here is from Jody Nagel. She's one of our teachers at Yankeetown, and she's teaching a 7th grade math intervention lesson.
So the first one we're looking at is number 15, and it says show 7 plus negative 3 on the number line. So if we look at our number line, I'm just going to draw it out with us. We're going to show 7 plus negative 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we need 7 plus negative 3. And they want us to show it on the number line, right? Okay, what is 7 plus negative 3? What are they really asking us to do? Because 7 plus negative 3 can be a little confusing. So what are they really asking here? They're asking what 7 minus 3 is. Awesome. Absolutely they are. So we can just pretend that that's not there and know that they're asking us 7 minus 3. So how am I going to show that on my number line? Where do I start? At 7. At 7. I'm going to put my dot at 7. Now, if I'm showing 7 minus 3, what am I going to do next? Where am I going to hop? F. I'm going to hop 3 times. 3 times. Am I going to hop towards 10 or am I going to hop towards 0? Towards 0. Towards 0. Perfect. So hop with me, okay? You got your pencil on your paper? Perfect. So we're going to hop backwards. 1, 2, 3. Where did we end up, James?
Okay, just another snippet of great instructional among our teachers. This next video clip is Bronson Elementary School. There's 2. Now, Zodine teaches a resource classroom at Bronson Elementary, grades K through 2. And here's a snippet of her creativity, and she's aligned it, of course, with the state standards.
Hello. Today, we are going to do a fun bonus activity. So this is nothing that's required by any of your teachers. It's something that I think would be kind of fun. And I actually have a challenge at the end. So stick around. Today we are going to cook together. So it's cooking with your teacher, kind of. So we are cooking with your teacher how to make a pepperoni pizza. So our goals are that you will be able to sequence the steps that are needed to make a pepperoni pizza, and that you can use details in your writing to explain your thoughts better, right? Because when you're explaining something, you can't just say, you know, I feel happy. Well, you can, but if you add more detail, like, I feel happy because I'm awake, I'm dressed, and I ate a yummy breakfast this morning, despite everything else that's been going on. Or I feel happy because my family is home with me and I love spending time with them. So that's adding more detail to your writing. So that's what we're going to work on today. Even at the bottom of this page, this is still a standards-based lesson, you guys, because that's what we're working on right now. We're working on, you know, making our writing clear and making it appropriate for what we're working on, right? So today we're going to be writing about steps to do something and, you know, actually making a pizza.
Okay, and she walks the students through that progress, and she used that process, and she used pizza, of course, to get their attention. Our standards never tell us how to teach the standard to proficiency, and they really trust, they being the Department of Ed, trust our educators to make this creative and make it interesting for our students. The second is Kaylee Downing, again at Bronson Elementary School, and she's teaching a math lesson. Let's see, I can't get in. All right, so we'll move forward. Oh my, get back, okay. Chiefland Elementary School. Sarah Fries is one of our paraprofessionals, and you see there that her and her mother teaches there as well, they began to use read alouds. So let's listen to this very quickly.
Way for Waddy Whack is our newest story in Mama F's Reading Corner. The author, the person who wrote this book, is Helen Lester. The illustrator, the lady who drew the pictures, is Lynn Mussinger. Now, poor little Rodney, he has a speech impediment. For you younger people, that just means he had trouble saying some of his letters. Poor Rodney. Rodney Rat. His real name was Rodney Rat, but he couldn't pronounce or say his R's. To make matters worse, he was a rodent. Oh, rodent. What's your name, Rodney? Asked the other rodents. Rodney Rat, whispered Rodney. What's another name for a bunny? They asked knowingly. Rabbit, he mumbled. And how does a train travel? They winked at each other.
One thing to note here that Miss Sarah, as I said before, is one of our paraprofessionals at Chiefland Elementary School, and she joins her daughter, who's a gen ed teacher, and they created read alouds for a YouTube channel that they share. And one of the parents' response to this level of instruction with their student is that the student settles down when he hears Miss Fries's voice. And that's the only time that she can have, or her student sits and quiet and is very attentive. So these read alouds are working for our students. Again, we have to look at ways to attract their attention, to maintain their attention and their interest in the educational environment. So that's one example of not only our classroom teachers, but our paraprofessionals have a role and responsibility, and they're doing a wonderful job. Miss Martin is going to demonstrate what she calls a moon sand. Check this out.
Conditioner. Any kind of hair conditioner will do just fine. And cornstarch. Hopefully your parents have some cornstarch in their kitchen for you to use, but if not, you can always do this lab later. So we'll be making moon sand today. It's not like sand you would really find on the moon, but we will be combining two things to make our moon sand. We'll be combining a solid with our cornstarch and a liquid material with our hair conditioner. So if you're going to make this at home, you will need 2 parts of cornstarch to 1 part of hair conditioner. So for Ms. Martin's, I did a half cup of the cornstarch right in the middle of your container. You can always do this in a bowl at home, but I wanted you to see what was going on with this, so I did it in a clear container. And then you're going to make a little hole in the middle, and you are going to add a 1/4 cup of hair conditioner. And this one gets down and dirty. You put your hands in here and you just start mixing these 2 materials together. So slowly, we'll mix the hair conditioner into the cornstarch. And you'll start feeling the material slightly change.
At the end of this video, she demonstrates the moon sand that the students have created. And of course, she's received some very positive impact, comments from families and from students, how much fun that was, using the strength. You know, it's not just reading and writing, but that tactile touching and feeling. And that was a successful lesson for her students. This particular, and it's the last video clip, is Wilson Middle High School, one of our ESOL teachers who's actually teaching a lesson, a 2-step sequence in an algebraic expression. So I'll just play a little bit of this for you.
Ok, ahora vamos a hacer en diferentes formas. Ok, so tenemos esta ecuación. La primera dice 3x más 8y es igual a 5 negativo. La segunda ecuación dice negativo 2x más positivo 2y es igual a positivo 18. Okay.
I'll stop it there. I had to have my husband to interpret that for me because he does understand and speak a little English, Spanish itself. But as you see on the slide, that this is an example of what she does to help students at home. And then she has an app that's called Notability. I'm not familiar with that app, but she used that app in her college courses. And she records herself talking and working through the problems. And then she plays it back and screen record it for the students. And she also indicates that she posts her assignments and lessons in the Google Classroom for students, and how she's found that to be very helpful and a better way or another way to engage her students. And that's, again, Ms. Nancy Rivera, one of our ESOL pairs at Wilson Middle High School. As much as the academics are important, we all know that the social emotional learning for all of our students is essential, because without that, there is no learning. As I indicated early on, we have 2 behavioral specialists, one of which is Angelica Toole, that you see here on the slide in terms of what she sent to all the schools. And she continues to send resources to the schools and also willing to provide the services to students who may be in need, and teachers and administration can reach out to her. So she's created several lessons, and so she's indicated here her resources, and all of these resources have been vetted at the state or national level, and so has been sent to us and other districts as well. And so she sifts through all of that, and she creates lessons that are grade appropriate, and we look at the area of need for the students. Here's a sample of one that she's created.
Chaos in my head. Hi, my name is Zoe. My head is always full of thoughts. A lot of thoughts. It never stops. Sometimes my head almost explodes. I have a lot of happy thoughts. Do you see what I mean? My head is full today with thoughts that make me smile. But sometimes dark thoughts invade my head. I don't want them there, but I can't stop them. That makes me feel stressed out.
Okay, I'll stop there. Somehow where do I get to minimize? Let's see. Okay, so it's a read aloud to the students that needed to be read to them. At the end, they're given a reflection question or two to think about where they are, to talk about strategies when they feel that they're a little bit overexcited or just need some mellow time, if you will. And so she walks them through that lesson. They reflect, they discuss. These are things that she will model for schools. And again, it's a resource that schools can tap into if they choose to. It's not one size fits all. In talking about our mental health services, as you're aware, we have a contract with Meridian. We also have CDS, Corner Drugstore, who's providing services throughout our district. We have Dr. Pratt, who's our school licensed psychologist. And we have Jennifer Saez, who's a licensed mental counselor. At this time, and this number is very fluid, we are serving over 163 students in support of their mental and emotional well-being. As you can tell, the needs are very great, and the needs have grown since this pandemic. It has grown exponentially, and so we're available. Meridian has and continue to step up to the plate and be available for even students that we have not served in the regular school year. And many of the students that we're serving now were not on school's radar. So the needs are there. Parents know to reach out to the schools, and we act once it's been brought to our attention that services are needed. This last video clip is a clip from Chiefland Elementary School. Kaylee Spina is one of our coaches, and she's a PE coach, and she's also our PBS coach. Let's listen to what she has to share with her students.
Hello, all my wonderful students. I miss you so much. One of the things that I miss about being with you is being able to celebrate all of our wonderful moments. So you know that I am your PE coach, but I am also your PBS coach as well. And so what I do is it is my job to help put in place like a system within our school to help encourage and foster positive behavior from our students. So we do that many different ways at CES. We reward you with travel tokens immediately for meeting our school-wide expectations. Then you can redeem those travel tokens at our monthly school store, and our 9 weeks TBS events as well, which are loads and loads of fun. So I just want to check in with you and see how you're doing. We've had this conversation before at like our fun kickoff parties or our back to school kickoffs when we come back in January. You can meet these expectations wherever you are, in any environment, wherever, with whomever, and I hope that you are still meeting these and showing these characteristics at home with your families, whoever you're staying with. They all deserve this, and you deserve it back too. So you should remember that our CES school-wide expectations are to be respectful, be responsible, be safe, be kind, and be hardworking. And like I said, these are things that you can do at home. If you have to go to the grocery store with your parents, these are things that you should be showing others. So I am going to put a link under this video to this right here, so that if you have access to a printer at home, your parents can print this, and you can put it up in your house to remind you. So one way that I can be respectful to my parents or whoever I'm staying with is that I can listen, follow directions, use my manners, please and thank you.
Okay, so I'll stop there. And lastly, as I said before, there's lots of information, resources for our schools, for our families. You have that in your folder. You also should have received an email from my bookkeeper. I asked her to send that electronically. We do exercise universal design for learning because I know that some of us like paper copies of things as well as electronically, so you have it both. And so there are places where you can click on those resources if you're interested to see those live. We also have all of our resources, or a majority of them, I should say, because there's a plethora that comes to us in our inbox on a daily basis on our Levy County website. So if you go to our website, you'll see a plethora of resources for students, for families, for instructors, of course, to help them do the work that's so difficult during this time of COVID-19. And last but not least, in closing, we will continue to demonstrate empathy, compassion, and grace to our students and families as we work collaboratively through this pandemic. It really requires all of us working together in support of our families and our students. That concludes my presentation. Just know that if you haven't, all of our schools did submit either a video and or a success story, and I wasn't able to cover all of them. That's why I want you to have it electronically or in your folder to share with others in the community. But collectively, we're working very diligently in support of our families and students. Are there any questions for me at this time?
That was an excellent presentation, Dr. Hall. Thank you very much. And thank you for the video clips with all the schools. That was really terrific. Board members, do you have any comments?
I do, I'm sure. Good morning, Dr. Hall, it's Chris.
Good morning.
Question for you. Assuming the day we get back to somewhat sense of normalcy, of whatever normal may be, and especially sooner than later, do you see services starting back up, like for speech or therapy type services this summer?
Yes, speech and language services are being provided even during this COVID-19. Our speech pathologists, all of them, contracted and school personnel, have reached out to all of our parents. They started that process calling parents the week of March 30th when we returned from spring break. And they too keep a log, and I monitored that along with my coordinator, Marcy Young. So they've been having ongoing conversation. I will tell you that we've only had one parent, Mr. Coward, that declined services at this time. And parents can do that. And I just want to point that out. In your folder, you have a copy of the letter that was sent to parents early during this time of COVID-19. It went to parents of students with disabilities, parents of students with 504 plans, and there's also a letter that went to the gifted students, gifted parents as well. And what it speaks to is that if a parent and or a school want to come together, not an IEP meeting, but just meet virtually and talk about the specific services or goals and objectives that they want their child to focus upon, because focusing on all of it may be overwhelming, and it has been in communications that I've had with schools, teachers, and families. And so they can come together and determine, we're only going to focus on this, maybe just reading right now, or reading and math. But in terms of related services, our speech pathologist has a caseload, and they're serving their students in a different manner, of course, as they would if they were in a brick and mortar school. So those services have not been delayed unless parents have asked that they not continue during this time frame.
Thank you, Dr. Hall. And the last thing is I'd like to shout out to 3 Cedar Key staff members, Miss Holly, Miss Kirsten, and Miss Yvonne. As you know, we have a special little guy down there that Miss Yvonne works a lot one-on-one with. And he is an autistic young man. And probably, I think, 3 weeks he went where he didn't do any work. But they continued to fill out and do packets and to reach out to the mother, single mother. And I just commend them for going the extra mile to try and reach out. And she was extremely happy last week with the packet work and trying to the resources that those 3 are reaching out. So thank you.
And thank you for sharing that success story. We hear multiple success stories throughout our district. And of course, nothing is perfect, but until it's brought to our attention, we can't really respond because we don't know what we don't know. But it's so nice. And I tell you, when we sent out an email to the schools and say, just share your success stories. Oh my goodness, there were so many. And it made really our colleagues think about the success that they're really having. There's some challenges, of course, and that's to be expected, but there's so much more success that is happening in our schools, and we really need to share the good news. So thank you for sharing that, Mr. Coward.
I just have to second what she said. There are so many good things happening out there. We still have a lot of challenges, just like we do each and every day, but I cannot express my thanks and gratitude to the good things that are happening out there and that we don't know about. But I hear about them, some of them, and I know you do too, and you see all of them on social media. But our folks are working really hard to make sure our kids get the very best we can under these circumstances.
Dr. Hall?
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
On Mr. Edison's note, I know Ms. Bartello in Yankeetown has a working document of concern, ESE kids and students in general, that it's a very fluid list that she's sharing with Ms. Hurst and other teachers, just trying to see if someone's touched base with these kids. But what do you do with the kids that are off the grid, and has that number increased? What's the procedure there?
Okay, I heard part of the question. You wanted to know, what do we do if a student is?
Well, if work hasn't been turned in and there hasn't been contact made.
Let me speak to this just a minute. One of the things that we monitor what we call the tickers, that there has been a personal contact and there's been a conversation about the work. As a district, we're running at 97%. Okay. Some schools are higher than that, some schools are lower than that, but our district average for 2 weeks ago was 97%. And I was going to say this to my comment, although I speak to it now. One of the busiest people that we have around here is Dennis Weber. And he's out, and when schools contact him, he's out doing home business. And when we cannot contact somebody, he will go out and see him. He is still serving these kids. He's having the pre-assessment meetings and the counseling that's supposed to be provided kids. He's going to their homes doing this. And whenever schools cannot contact somebody, we're going out knocking.
He's still doing that.
Yes.
And I'm going to also add to that, I heard a little bit of a message, is that, as I indicated, we have one social worker who's still working with families. And so once we are aware, and I've said this for the last couple of weeks to our schools, that to also let me know and my staff, because we can make another round of calls and reach out to families. What we have said, and Mr. Edison's been very clear about this too, we should not have a student whereby we don't know their whereabouts. We've had some students to move to family, to other places during this time of a pandemic. But at this point in time, we're into our, I think, our 5th week of school with distant learning. We should not have a student that we're not aware of where they are. And if we're not receiving packets and if they're not working online, that's a red flag. And we do address it. But it takes multiple people many times to really get to the root of why we're not receiving calls or callbacks or communication from families. But it works both ways. And we're very diligent about that. Any other comments?
No, that was an excellent, very thorough presentation, Dr. Hall. And I think that you have some goodies over here that you brought in for guests here today.
I didn't want to disappoint you. I couldn't be there live, but I thought I could treat you well. So hopefully you can enjoy the snacks.
Yes, we will enjoy them, and you always do an excellent job, and thank you very, very much for the extra effort that you do.
Thank you very much.
Our next item, item H, our school board meetings and timelines.
Okay, you'll see within your packet the school board dates and timelines. We just adjusted it to meet the trend calendar.
Yes.
And so I'm seeking to adopt this calendar to go ahead and our school board meetings for the rest of the year.
I have a motion and a second. Are there any other comments? Mr. Aswell, did you get a chance to look at it?
I looked at it. It looks still 2nd and 4th Tuesdays. I'm good with it.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes to adopt. Thank you. Safe patrol update, Mr. Edison.
Okay. As I alluded to, talked about the last board meeting, the question about the safety patrol trip, which was a trip that you have approved. Been working with the sheriff, which has been working with educational tours. And I will tell you this, that there's on our NEPAC conference call we had last week, one NEPAC district, and I don't know who the vendor is, but they take 8th graders. They have paid in all their money to the provider, and they canceled the trip, and the provider's not refunding anything, zero. Another county, another school district, they paid their deposit, which I think was $150 for, I remember, like ours, and they canceled their trip, and they're not getting the deposit back. Now, because we're working through the sheriff's department and educational tours, which has been a partner with us, and agreeing that we will allow the 6th grade, the kids that are in 5th grade, to go in 6th grade, educational tours is going to refund that deposit back to the schools. So at this point, what I'm recommending to you is that we cancel the field trip, the Washington DC field trip for the 5th graders, and allow those 5th graders that are going to be 6th graders next year, if they so choose to do so, go on the trip. Now there's comments, and Kim, you can weigh in on this. This is what I know we have to do. We have, if parents paid in money for the trip, the parents get their money back. But if it's fundraising money, that fundraising money stays into the account. And so there's some conversation out there, and Kim's been working with the bookkeepers, but we have the red book, finance book that we have to follow. And so we have to follow those rules in there, because we certainly don't want to get in a situation like we did in CRT and have funds go from one account to another. And so we will follow those rules and make sure that the funds stay where they're supposed to be. And so my recommendation is to cancel that trip and allow the 6th graders to go next year if they so choose to.
And also, along that recommendation, that is what you've heard from the sheriff's department too. That was their recommendation as well.
Yes, ma'am. And I'll talk with the sheriff. It depends upon how things go for next year. It could be 1 trip, it could be 2 trips, but he'll certainly be able to accommodate the increase. And it might be 1 trip with separate buses, but they'll work on that.
Any comments, board members?
So there's monies that they're basically in each one of those individual kids' account that fundraise for their trip, right?
Yes.
If I remember correctly. So that'll roll till next year, and they'll be available for them next year in the sixth.
Yeah, I'll have to work with Kim and the bookkeepers to how all that works.
I just wanted,
Yes.
I understand the parents' money going back to them, and it surely needs to go back to them this time, but I'm sure there's a lot of questions. So my first question is, if they roll next year and they don't go, then where does that money go?
Yeah, I know that.
Can you, okay, sorry. Yes, it's sitting in a safety patrol account and they would be tracking it per child, per student, those fundraised dollars. And they can go to either help offset costs for the sixth grader to travel next year, or they would just remain in that safety patrol account to be allocated. However, the reason being is because those dollars were raised specifically for safety patrol field trips. So the dollars have to be used in that manner.
I think we just need to be very clear and get it out to our schools and our parents, because I've already had a lot of calls and concerns.
Kim has been working with the bookkeepers to make sure we transmit the correct information. And there are people that say, I want my money back, but we can't keep somebody's money. They're not small. They can donate it another way.
Any other comments?
I'll, thanks, move to the superintendent's recommendation.
Second. Motion and a
Thanks was
second.
the right word, but we're